Do you ever just give and give and give until you finally snap? And then minutes later, you are drowning in a sea of guilt, wondering why you can't just be normal? Or do you find that it's very hard to find a middle ground? You're either people pleasing or you're like the monster that blew up everyone. I know the cycle. I used to be a fearful avoidant too. Hi, I'm Melissa. I'm a GP and I'm a certified coach. I used to be a fearful avoidant, but I was able to become securely attached in my romantic relationship. That transformation didn't happen overnight. It took a lot of regulating my nervous system and reprogramming my subconscious mind. But if you want to break from that cycle, today I'm going to be sharing something that might help you. Today we are looking at one of the most powerful core wounds, the unworthiness core wound. We tend to acquire these core wounds in our childhood, but they can be shaped throughout our lives. The reason why it's easier to acquire them in our childhood, it's because as children, we think in absolutes. So all or nothing thinking, and we have a hard time understanding nuance. Another thing is that as children, we depend on our caregivers for survival, so we are wired to be attuned to them. So if things were inconsistent or volatile, our child's brain had to make a choice. Either we are the problem or our caregivers are the problem. And to a child, it's easier to believe that we are the problem, because if we are the problem, then we can be better to fix it. Whereas if our caregiver is a problem, then we are in this state of helplessness. So for example, if when you were a child, you were only praised or given affection when you were being good or quiet or compliant, you might have learned that you are not worthy just for being you. There are many other small life events that may not seem life-threatening at the moment, but when repeated or left unaddressed, they can really reshape your sense of self-worth. On a side note, this is not about blaming our parents or our caregivers. We all do the best we can with what we've got, but I really believe that it's easier to take responsibility for our life when we understand ourselves better. Okay, so back to the topic at hand. One thing that it's important to understand about the subconscious mind is that it seeks equilibrium. When we believe we are unworthy, we will likely try to overcompensate, to overgive and underreceive, to people please, to have a lack of boundaries in our close relationships. What's happening at the subconscious level is that we believe that we have to give and give in order to earn our worth and be accepted in certain situations. Another common thing is that when we believe that we are unworthy, we usually tend to be afraid of receiving, and that can be support, that can be compliments, that can be kindness. And what this means is that our life will be imbalanced. And this brings me to the fearful avoidance cycle. For many fearful avoidants, a lack of boundaries come from this deep-seated belief that we aren't worthy unless we are being useful. And this leads to a pattern of overgiving. For example, saying yes even when you're exhausted and under-receiving. But the thing is, you can only run on empty for so long until resentment starts to kick in. Eventually, you start feel taken advantage of, and that hurt builds up until you reach a boiling point. And when that happens, you can lash out or use harsh words, but then the dust settles and you calm down a little bit, and that's when the guilt rushes in. And you feel so terrible about the way you acted that reinforces your core belief of I am unworthy. So you go right back to overgiving to make up for it, and the cycle starts all over again. So how do you break from this loop? To break from this loop, you have to reprogram your wound of I am unworthy. And you can do this by working with your subconscious mind and by taking small actions to reinforce this new belief of I am worthy. To work with your subconscious mind, you have to speak its language, which is imagery, emotion, and repetition. So step number one is that you're going to look for evidence in your own life. You're going to gather little pieces of evidence from your day-to-day life of how you are worthy just for being you. And to do this, it helps if you just close your eyes, try to visualize this evidence and really let that feeling sit in your body for a little bit. Step number two is you're going to take small actions. You can start by saying no to very small situations, like, for example, a coffee invite that you don't really want to go. And you can start by setting very small boundaries. And every time you do that, you pause, and reflect and see how you're still loved, how you're still connected. And then you are going to slowly work your way up to the big no's and to the big boundaries in the relationships and the situations that actually matter to you. The more you do this, the more you repeat a new action or a new thought, the more your subconscious gives it priority. Now, the amount of time that is going to take you to heal this wound is going to be very personal to you, but try not to rush the process, okay? Just be gentle with yourself. If you find yourself going back to your old patterns, just approach the situation with kindness and with curiosity instead of judgment and shame, because healing takes time and it's not a linear process. And the foundation to healing is to build a good relationship with ourselves, and that starts with a positive inner dialogue. If you found this helpful, I think you're going to like this video about how to heal your nervous system.